Good afternoon and welcome to Football League World TV. We've got our final show of the day. We've had a couple of debate shows. We've got a final one to bring the day to a close. We're going to be talking about Preston North End and Ryan Lowe's impact since arriving at Deepdale. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of Football League World.co.uk, and I'm joined by my colleague and resident Preston fan here at Football League World, Ben Wignall. Ben, how are you getting on this afternoon, mate?
Very good, Sam. Nice to be talking about PNE centred topic for a change, and it's a good one to discuss after the nice start to 2022 we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, we're going to be talking about Ryan Lowe and the impact he's made and the future of Preston North End under the tutelage of Ryan Lowe. He's had 2 games in charge so far, 2 wins. It's been a solid start for Lowe at Deepdale. We're going to be dissecting the last 2 games and discussing them in some good detail. If you are a Preston North End fan, get in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with what Ben's got to say about Ryan Lowe and the state of Preston right now? We'd love to get your thoughts. We've got a guest on the show today. You love to see it. There we go. Right, let's get straight into it then. So Ryan Lowe appointed at Preston back at the start of December, taking over from Frankie McAvoy. I think it's fair to say the kind of feeling amongst the Preston fans during the end of that Frankie McAvoy sort of era was somewhat toxic, wasn't it, Ben?
Yeah, it was a little bit. Obviously, I think he had to get the job based on what he did at the end of last season. You know, he had 8 games. He only lost one of them. I think it was a heavy defeat to Brentford, that one, but I think there was kind of a mixed feeling in between the fans. You know, some of them thought the results deserved to get him the job, but others thought, the teams we played and beat didn't have much to play for. And there were some worries going into the season that we may not have strengthened enough, and also what will happen when the games actually matter. Obviously, it was a bad start to the season against Hull. 4-1 defeat at home against a newly promoted team isn't the best way to go about things. And I think as time went by, there was a few half decent results. The Bournemouth one sticks out as a real positive towards the end of his reign, but it was never quite comfortable, and the performances on the whole weren't great. And his last game was Blackburn away, and you want a good result against a local rival, and I think we had 0 shots on target in the second half, and he just kind of went down like a damp squib. And I think on the whole, the timing was right to get rid of him and bring in a new face. But I think there's no ill feeling towards Frankie, even though the performances weren't great.
Yeah, I mean, Preston didn't hang about in terms of finding a replacement for McAvoy. Almost a day later, Ryan Lowe secured the job. Obviously, Lowe was doing a fantastic job in League One with Plymouth Argyle. They were kind of flirting with the automatic promotion places in League One for some while. Ben, let's go kind of back to that initial appointment. What was your initial reaction to the news when Ryan Lowe was appointed? I mean, he's a manager that had been touted with a lot of different jobs in the EFL. Given his attractive blend of football, he's a young manager. Lots to like about him. I mean, how did you feel when the news came through?
Well, when I heard that he was our number one choice from a few people, I was quite excited, but I was quite surprised. The jobs he's been linked with. I think he's been linked with the likes of Bristol City and other jobs in recent months and in 2021. And I just thought that if he's not going to go for them jobs, why would he come to North End? We're not the biggest spenders in the Championship. He's been linked with teams that do spend money. And I think the fact that, a few people said it might be a sideways step because Plymouth were, on the cusp of the top 2 at the time. I think I was just quite surprised, really. But I think it did make sense in the terms of where his location is. He's a Scouser, he'll have family up here. And it kind of just made, when you think about it, a little bit more sense. And I was just more surprised at the timing of how it happened. It happened within 24 hours of Frankie leaving, Ryan coming in. And I just think that, something must have been in the pipeline for a while. I think Frankie's job was a little bit, on edge for a few weeks, and a few good results against Middlesbrough and Fulham just kind of made him hang on for a little bit. But when Ryan was appointed, I think you would have seen on Twitter, Sam, the PNE fans were very excited. And, he's, as we'll talk about, he's already, got him on side with the performances so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot spoken about kind of wanting your team to play attacking football, and a nice blend of attractive football on the eye. And Ryan Lowe does possess that. We've seen that in his former jobs at Bury and Plymouth and other places. I mean, there's substance behind that as well, isn't there? I mean, we saw particularly at his time at Plymouth, certainly this season, the start of the season, they were, well among the top six and well in the race for automatic promotion in the early kind of stages of the season. Is that a sort of quality that you appreciate as a Preston fan? The fact that, it is a real attractive blend of football that he's playing, but at the same time, it's actually got some substance behind it and it's producing results.
Yeah, it is a nice change. I mean, when Alex Neil first came in 2017, I think we played some good high pressing, front-footed football, and that's kind of what we're playing now. I think towards the end of Neil's reign, and certainly with Frankie, the football was a bit more direct, and it was, considering we had so many talented midfielders, that were kind of getting missed out in the play. It was just going from defence to attack, and it wasn't pretty to watch. The last few months haven't been pretty to watch, even though there has been a few decent results like we spoke about, Middlesbrough and Bournemouth. But I think we've just 2 games into Ryan Lowe's reign, I think you can see the differences that he brings. To kind of try and play triangles through the midfield. The likes of Daniel Johnson and Alan Brown are getting on the ball a bit more. And that's what he kind of did with Plymouth. He's the likes of Kamara and Broom are kind of playing like how Johnson and Brown are now. So it's definitely good football to watch from the first 2 games I saw. I know he did have a bit of a sticky patch at the back end of last season. It was the first season back in League One after a promotion. It wasn't always going to be plain sailing for Plymouth, but the fact that they were so high up when he left this season, I think it only breeds confidence for us. He's coming from a club that he's done really good things with, and he's already seemingly getting the best out of some players, which we might talk about in a bit, that have perhaps not shown in the last few months.
Yeah, absolutely. Preston North End fans, get yourselves in the comments. What do you make of Ryan Lowe's start to life at Deepdale? Please do let us know. Right, let's touch on them first 2 games that he's had in charge now. So 2 wins so far for Ryan Lowe at Preston North End. A home 2-1 victory over Barnsley in his first game, and then an impressive 2-1 win away at Stoke City on Monday. Ben, you were there in the away end on Monday. It looked like a cracking away day to be involved in. Some fantastic goals from both sides during the game. For any team in the second tier to go away to Stoke and pick up a win is an impressive feat. I mean, what did you make of that performance in particular? Because that was a really impressive result, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the first half was a little bit cagey. I think Stoke had a few decent chances, and so did PNE, but they were kind of just half chances, no real, keepers weren't tested and whatnot. And then when you come out for the second half and Ben Wignall scores the goal of his life from 35 yards, I think that you could go 2 ways. You could go back into your shell as a team under Frankie. We might have done that, but as soon as Stoke scored, we went back on the front foot. Our wing backs were, high up the pitch, and as we saw, Brad Potts scoring that wonder volley, kind of a Sizik-esque Di Canio goal. It was a surprise for us to see, coming from a player who's probably underperformed for the whole of 2021, but we kept pushing for that winning goal, and it eventually came with a set piece. And I think set piece have been something we've tried to rely on under Frankie, with long throw-ins, corners and free kicks. But under Ryan, I think we're obviously trying to play it on the floor, and obviously set piece goals are going to be a bonus now. And under Frankie, we might have, forgot the right word there, but surrendered that lead. Sorry, but we played it out well. We were winning free kicks in the corners. So yeah, it was just a really good overall performance. You could just tell it was a sellout away end. I think there's 1,600 people there. You can already tell that the fans are kind of back on side, and it's only taken a manager to come in, say the right things, and Plymouth fans have been on to us saying he said the same things when he came into Plymouth. But sometimes as a manager, you've got to do that. But he's already, in the space of a few weeks, connected with us, and he's seemingly getting the best out of the players already as well.
Yeah, it certainly looks like there's a real connection between the fans and the club right now, which is what you want as a supporter of a team. Right, let's touch on Ryan Lowe's formation then. Often, I mean, as per Who Scored, He's been utilising a 3-4-1-2 in his last few games. But Ben, you suggested that maybe it's perhaps a different formation with Ben Whiteman's almost acting as a quarterback. What have you made of the formation that Ryan Lowe's kind of deployed at Preston? And do you feel it suits the current Lily White's team?
Well, Frankie McAvoy played a 3-5-2 and so has Lowe, but I think there's clear differences. I think Frankie's kind of wing backs were kind of more defence orientated, Seth Vandenberg and Josh Earl have been playing there for most of the season, and they've not really been, attacking like they have done in the last 2 games. I think Earl's been a bit criticised this season for not really attacking his, full back and getting crosses in. He's already improved that a little bit in the last few games. He's still got, a lot more to improve on, but I think the main difference I've seen is, Ben Whiteman sitting in that quarterback role. As you said, he's kind of pinging the diagonals to the wing backs, or, Brown and Johnson are trying to get out wide as centre midfielders, like advanced 8. So I think Ben Whiteman's role is probably the most important in the team, where he just sits and, picks out these passes. And he's got 5 assists and 4 goals this season. He's one of our, most important players after being here for a year. But I just think there's a clear direction of where Lowe wants to go with the formation. I think Frankie, from his football, it was basically going direct from centre backs to the attack, and you were missing out players like Johnson, who, wants to get on the ball, make things happen. And Johnson's already got, I think, 2 assists and a goal since Lowe's come in, so he's going to be a very important player. But even when we were 2-1 up, he kept the same formation. Sinclair and Maguire came on up front for Reece and Evans. So he wasn't changing. He wasn't going 5-4-1, going very defensive. He was just trying to stick at it, keep it up front, and keep it away from our half. So I think we've already seen the clear way he wants to go. We don't know if he's got a plan B yet, because he's not really needed to use it after 2 games. But from what I've seen from his system, he's getting the best out of the likes of, talented players like Johnson and Whiteman that the previous manager probably wasn't doing.
Yeah, one of the noticeable kind of selections that Ryan Lowe made on Monday was to play Brad Potts at right wing back. Not naturally a wing back, is he? More of a midfielder. What did you make of that selection? And it obviously worked, because he seemed to have a real influence on the game, and also scored that fantastic goal. I mean, is that a kind of position you could see Brad Potts kind of cementing now?
It is, yeah, and something I didn't know before I saw it after the game. He did actually start as a right back at Carlisle when he was a youngster, but obviously he's transitioned into being a midfielder for, Carlisle, Barnsley, Blackpool and PNE. When we were looking at, me and a few of my mates were looking before, when Ryan Lowe took over, we know he likes to use midfielders as wing backs. He's at Plymouth, he turned Conor Grant into a left wing back, and even though Joe Edwards had played out there a little bit, he kind of became the first choice on the right hand side at Plymouth. And then Ali McCann obviously played there in the first game against Barnsley. It didn't quite work out. He didn't get up the pitch. I think he kind of got pinned in by Callum Styles that day. And, I think Ali McCann's a really good runner, but I think his best position is in midfield. Whereas Brad Potts, he's kind of been in 2021, here, there and everywhere. He's played up front under Frankie, which didn't really suit him. He tried to go quite direct to him. He's a big lad, but don't think a striker role suited him. But I think the way he plays, he's a tireless runner. He'll never shirk any energy or responsibility. And I think right wing back could be the right position for him. I think there's a void there to be filled. I think Seth Vandenberg did play there in the first half of the season under Frankie, but I think Liverpool and Sepp himself sees his long-term future at centre-back, and he's playing really well there. So you've got to keep him there. So that's kind of a void on the right-hand side that needs to be filled. We've got Ola Sunday, who got injured after his first game against Blackburn. I think Tom Barkhuizen can play there. And I honestly expect Alan Brown to play there. He played there last season under Alex Neil. He scored a few goals from out there, but he's playing well in the midfield now. And I think Potts is taking that opportunity under Lowe, giving it him on Monday. And I think it's kind of his position to lose now. I know it's only 1 game, but I think he's shown more in that role than he has done for quite a while. So capping it off with that scissor kick goal was a real exciting one, seeing the away end. And if he can produce more of them performances, I think it'll show why we did pay, a 7-figure fee a couple of years ago to sign him. Hopefully it continues.
Yeah, definitely an impressive display from Potts in that position, Stoke on Monday for sure. Let's touch on Daniel Johnson in a little bit more detail next. I mean, Daniel Johnson is a player that's got a lot of quality at this level. We've seen it over the last few seasons, his ability to create goals and score goals as well. Perhaps didn't necessarily fit into Frankie McAvoy's system. Perhaps was kind of it was a little bit too rigid for him. It seems under Ryan Lowe that he's got a lot more of a license to roam in attacking areas. We saw what Ryan Lowe did with Ryan Broom at Plymouth Argyle, kind of almost allowed him that license to roam into various attacking thirds. Was able to move out to wide areas, but also play through the middle as well. And it seems like Daniel Johnson's almost in that similar sort of mould as to what Broom was at Plymouth. I mean, it's been a great start for Daniel Johnson under Lowe, hasn't it, over the last 2 games? He's been one of the standout players for Preston. Just how excited are you to see Daniel Johnson kind of develop and progress under Ryan Lowe? Because it does seem that he plays better when he hasn't got as many leashes on him, really.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think from the 2 games we've seen, I think the Barnsley game in particular, he was going into tackles. He was kind of taking control of the play, and I don't think tackling something you really associate with Johnson. He's more of a playmaker, but I think Ryan Lowe's kind of taken those kind of shackles off him. Under Frankie McAvoy, obviously, like we said earlier, the football's a bit more direct, so he's missing out those midfielders, and he was kind of picking up scraps. And he wasn't always playing under Frankie. He was kind of having a run of games in the team and then on the bench. And I just think under Lowe, putting an arm around him and making him one of the key players and playing it through him is going to be he's going to make him an even better player. I mean, he's pretty much at his peak now, and I think he's 28 years old, but he's proven over the years. I think he was our top scorer a couple of seasons ago with 12 in the Championship. So getting him back to that kind of form is very important. I think if you're a Football Manager player, I think you call it a mezzala, where you run into the channels, and I think he proved that on Monday when he set up the goal for Potts. Josh Earl just played it down the line. He found some space and crossed it in. And they're the kind of positions you want Johnson to get in to provide chances for the strikers and the opposite wing backs, as Brad Potts proved. So, yeah, I think Johnson's going to be not just like one of our most important players. Brown's going to be very important as well in that role. He's got similar attributes to Johnson. He might not be a silky footballer as Johnson, but he's proven over the years he can score goals as well. But yeah, in terms of Johnson, he's getting linked with clubs like Rangers a couple of seasons ago until his form tail off. But I think under Lowe he can be probably one of our most important and influential players.
Yeah, very exciting in terms of Daniel Johnson at Preston. It does seem like it's going to work for him under Ryan Lowe if the first 2 games are anything to go by. Let's touch on a few more bits. Let's just touch on the striker situation then at Preston right now. Of late, we've seen Emil Rees and Ched Evans start as a 2 up top. What is your preferred striking duo, and what do you feel Ryan Lowe should opt for in terms of that 2 up top? Because that is, in terms of his formation, that he does like to utilise 2 up top. What do you feel is the best kind of combo?
It's really tough to say at this stage, because the first game against Barnsley, I think Rees had some exciting moments, but Maguire didn't, really perform to what he's had a few good games this season, but I don't think Maguire now is a goal scorer like he was a couple of years ago. I think his hamstring injuries mean that, his best attributes of, having pace and getting behind the defence have kind of been taken away from him. And I was excited to see Rees play with Ched Evans, to see what they would play like in Lowe's system, but don't think that really worked either on Monday. Rees seemed like he wasn't really in the game, and Evans, he was, pressing like he normally does and making a nuisance of himself, but we didn't really look like they were going to score either of them. I think Scott Sinclair's probably going to end up getting a chance. He had a good cameo against Barnsley a few weeks back, but I think it's an area where we could probably strengthen this month. I think we were looking all summer for, that kind of 20-goal a season striker that everyone craves in the Championship, and Emil Rees looks like he's kind of grew on into that role. He's got 12 goals in all competitions, but I think he does have games where he's kind of just isolated and absent, and that was kind of what it was like on Monday. So I think a striker, I don't really know what our best partnership is right now. I'd be keen to give Rees and Sinclair a go. Maybe against Cardiff in the Cup this week. I know we've got a break from league action, so maybe it'll be a good chance to experiment that one. But I would be looking at a potentially new striker. I know Ryan Hardy's been linked. We've brought that exclusive, but I know that whilst the budget might be a bit tight this month. We might need to get rid of a few players before we do bring one in. I think a striker, a high presser and someone who's scored goals at either Championship or League One level would be quite important to play alongside Reece, because he's definitely a long-term first choice striker, I think.
P&E fans, send in your comments. Who do you think is the best striking combination at Deepdale? As we know, Ryan Lowe likes to play two up top. Right, let's touch on the transfer window next. We are, of course, in the midst of the January transfer window. It's starting to pick up across the three divisions in the EFL. Ryan Lowe's come out and said he's pretty relaxed about the January transfer window in terms of incomings for Preston this month. They'll only sign players if they feel it's a genuine upgrade on what they've got already. So doesn't sound like there's going to be a plethora of new additions at Preston this month, but if they kind of find some value and a player that's going to improve what they've got, then they will potentially make it. Ben, I'll come to you. I mean, what do you feel Preston need to add in this window? I know Ryan Lowe's kind of come out and said there might not be many additions, but where do you feel Preston need to strengthen, if anywhere?
Well, just mention a striker that we probably need to have a little bit of a look at, but other positions, maybe a left wing back. I think Josh Earl's not had the greatest season. He's someone who's got potential, who can kind of get coached into an attacking kind of wing back. But I do think we could potentially upgrade in that position. I know we've also got Greg Cunningham, but he's not the same player as he was when he's still a half decent Championship player, but he's not the player we sold to Cardiff anyway. I think we're very well stocked in midfield. Brown, Whiteman, Ledson, Johnson's the makings of and McCann as well, obviously, the makings of a really good Championship midfield. Centre back, I think we've got Bambo Diaby, ex-Barnsley defender on trial. I think he's still there. His 2-year ban expires, I believe, on the 22nd of January. So I think we're still looking at him, and he could add a little bit of depth. I think we've got a decent amount of centre backs anyway, but playing with three, you need probably at least 5 in the squad. I think we've got the 3 that start now. We've got Jordan Story and adding Diaby, who probably adds a little bit something else, a lot of pace and power to a defence. He might be one worth, taking a punt on it. He's only 23, 24, so that could be an interesting option. I think we're pretty safe in terms of our loans. I don't think there's any chance of Sepp Vandenberg and Daniel Everson, 2 of our best players this season, going back to their club. So I think there's not that many positions we do need to strengthen. Probably need to look at a left wing back and the striker, but I think it does rest on players going out. The likes of Josh Harrop and Joe Rafferty, who are on the fringes, and I think we've also got Connor Wickham's contract expires next week. He obviously signed a short-term deal in September and then got injured against Cheltenham. He tore his hamstring, so I don't know if that will be one we look to extend. I highly doubt we will do. Maybe Lowe will take a look at him in training, but yeah, I think a striker and left wing back are the 2 areas that I'd be looking at anyway. But it'd be a surprise to see us do anything in the next imminent week or 2, and it'll definitely not be like last January when we signed 7 players on loan and let Pearson, Davies, and Fisher go. That was a really kind of hectic, exciting, but also kind of traumatic transfer window, losing some of our best players.
Yeah, like I said, it does seem like Ryan Lowe is pretty happy with what he's got at his disposal right now at Deepdale. So, again, we don't expect too much to happen, but we shall see. Preston fans, get yourselves in the comments. Who would you like your club to sign in the January transfer window? As we spoke about, Ryan Hardy is one player we understand Preston are keeping tabs on this month, so we'll have to keep up to date with that situation. Right, let's look at the future objectives for Ryan Lowe next. As it stands, Preston sit in 14th position in the Sky Bet Championship table, 9 points away from Huddersfield Town, who currently occupy 6th position in the playoffs in the 2nd tier. Preston do have a number of games in hand on the likes of Huddersfield, who are in the playoffs right now. Ben, what is the kind of objective then for this season? Is a kind of late playoff push a genuine possibility, or is it simply just to kind of stabilise under Ryan Lowe and look to launch a more of a push next season? What's your kind of thoughts on that?
I think the playoffs is kind of daring to dream at this point, isn't it? I think the performances from the first half of the season under McAvoy, I think we were looking over our shoulders kind of, towards that relegation zone. But then after 2 wins, I think this is just the nature of the Championship this season. It's very, very open. And even with, the likes of Fulham and Bournemouth dropping points in, recent games, that even the top end of the table is not, as good as we thought it was earlier in the season. So I don't think it'd be out of the question to dream for the playoffs. And obviously we've got games in hand, but quite a lot of teams do because of all the postponements. And I just get the feeling that the playoffs this season might be a little bit too much. There's teams like outside the playoff places, the likes of Forest, Middlesbrough, Sheffield United, who've all got games in hand, who have also got more financial power, and the squad's already to, probably a bit more capable of putting on a run of results together. And bearing in mind, it's only been 2 games under the law. It's been impressive, but we've played Barnsley, who are struggling, and Stoke, who had a few key players out like Suter and Powell. So I'm trying to be a bit more level-headed than some people who might think we're on the playoff charge already. I'd like to see where our squad is at the beginning of February, who I imagine will keep all our players, see who we add to it. But we've got some tough games coming up. We've got Sheffield United at home. We've got West Brom away, but in between that, we've got like Birmingham, who are, on a bit of a downward spiral at the minute. We've got the likes of Hull, Huddersfield. And I don't think there's any games now that I think we're dead, going into thinking we're going to lose. Like under McAvoy, when we went to Blackburn, I was convinced we were going to lose 2 or 3-0, but obviously it ended up being 1-0. But now, the way we're playing, I'm going into every game confident we can get at least a point. Just to sum it up, I don't think we'll get the playoffs this season, but I think you can never say never in this wacky league.
Yeah, it's certainly a crazy league, as we all know. Preston fans, get yourselves in the comments. Do you agree with Ben? Do you think a playoff push is probably out of the question this season, or are you quite optimistic? Do you think Ryan Lowe could launch a playoff push this season? We'd love to get your thoughts. Right, let's look at one final question next. That final question being the main topic of this debate show this afternoon on Football League World TV. Can Ryan Lowe take Preston North End forwards? Ben, can he?
Hopefully. I think we've seen some positive signs already. His first 2 games. I think we've been longing to get to the Premier League for the last 20 years since I was a kid. I think when it started with David Moyes, Billy Davis almost got us there. Hopefully Ryan Lowe's that man. He's already got the fans on side after a few weeks. Hopefully we see the fans coming back to Deepdale. Obviously we never really sell out games. We've kind of got United, Liverpool, and teams around us. But he's definitely, from what I'm seeing on social media and in the away end, he's definitely getting fans back on side. And see where we are at the end of the season. I'd be happy with a top half finish at this stage. And then next season, hopefully we push on for the playoffs. And if the playoffs do come this season, then it'll be a welcome surprise. I'm not sure if we'd be in a great position compared to other teams to go up, and we might fall short. But I think anything's possible in this league, and hopefully next season, hopefully we get a little bit more clarity on what the kind of plans are for the club. I know the Hemmings family is still, funding the club after Trevor's untimely passing a few months ago. I don't know if they're gonna, if Craig's gonna spend a little bit more money. We'll have to wait and see with that. But we've got the manager in now to, kind of push us forward and try and make a difference. And we can only push on from our first 2 games, which have been wins. So it's looking to be an exciting future.
Yeah, it's been a solid start, and it does seem to be a real genuine feeling of optimism around Deepdale right now under Ryan Lowe. Right, well, that brings an end to this afternoon's debate show here on Football League World TV, taking a look at Ryan Lowe and his start to life at Preston North End. As we've said multiple times on this show, get yourselves in the comments if you're watching this on repeat on YouTube. Can Ryan Lowe take Preston North End forwards? We'd love to get your thoughts. As we said, that brings today's coverage on Football League World TV to a close. We've got 3 more shows for you tomorrow. We've got 2 debate shows during the day, and then we've got the EFL Transfer Zone tomorrow afternoon, where we'll keep you up to date with all the latest EFL transfer news. Ben, thanks for joining me this afternoon, and we shall see you soon.